Welcome to our next guest, and Ademola Adediji. Is that right? Did I get close
Yes,
that time?
yes, you
There
did
you
well.
go. Well, once again, I like to,
You got
as
it
an
right.
Alabama boy, you never know. So anyway, thanks for being with me today. So I'm going to, the first guest we talked about what's happening in China, what's happening, the bombing of Iran by the United States and what that means for the world. So what I want to talk to you about, there's several things I want to talk to you about, and your background, what it deals with genocide and what's happening around the world and the impact on Africa. Because what I like to do on this show is try to take what's happening globally and kind of equate it to what the impact is, and like in Nigeria specifically and Africa as a whole. So let's just start with this. Globally, with all the conflict we're seeing, especially in the Middle East and what's happening in Russia, around the world, walk us through what you think the impact is in Nigeria and Africa, and why Nigerians should care.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Yes, what is happening globally, the world is a global village now. It's become a global village. And so what is happening in one part of the world is affecting the whole human family, actually, the entire world. So, and Nigeria is not an exception. The African continent is not an exemption. So, we have, for example, Nigeria is an ally of the United States, good friend of the United States. Also, Nigeria has diplomatic relations with many countries of the world. So, what is happening in those countries is directly or indirectly affecting us. For example, we talked recently about the surge in oil prices, and we know the escalation of the conflicts in the Middle East will definitely have serious impact on the fragile economic situation on the African continent. And Nigeria, which is supposed to be playing its leading role on the African continent, we have not really gotten to that yet. We are still striving to take up that leadership role fully on the African continent, and which we actually a role we should be playing conveniently because of the size of the Nigerian population, the uh the human resources available to us, apart from the natural resources available to us. So what it's happening in the whole world is directly affecting us, and we should care. We want peace in the world. And I think also Nigeria wants peace. We have also our internal situation, our internal instability. But so we know what it means to have insecurity, and we know what it means to experience terrorism. We know what it means to have economic retardation. We know what it means for our people not to have food on the table. And we know what it means not to be respected also in the Community of Nations. We are talking about the Middle East. Good for that question that you asked. We are talking about the Middle East. We are talking about the Russia-Ukrainian conflict. We are talking about other conflicts in the world. I was saying last time that I understand the position of the Israeli government, not because I have some Israeli friends, I have Iranian friends as well. I have friends from different parts of the world. But there is no I don't like to use that word race. I like to replace it with the concept of ethnicity. I don't think there's any ethnicity that suffers so much like the African continent, like African people in the issue of mankind. Yes, the Jews have suffered a lot, but we know what it means to suffer because of our origin, because of our skin color, because of our background. So I understand the plight of the Jewish people, because historically there were parallels, actually, even in the 15th century, during the Spanish Inquisition. When that word race came into existence for the first time, that word race was directed against the Jews. It was invented against the Jews, not against black people. But along
Well,
the way
yes.
we were captured into it. But so
Well, there's so much to unravel here. There really is.
yeah.
So I mean, because it There is. So I would argue, well, first of all, let me say this. My guest I had last week was a Nigerian businessman who's in the United States. And one thing interesting that he said as well that you're saying is there's the concept of Nigeria's role in the global world. And there's two things. My father, before he passed away, would always, I mean, as you know, I do a lot of stuff globally. He said, why should you be involved? Why don't you just stick your head in the sand and let the world do its thing? And so there's two ways any country can go. One is that they can stick their head in the sand and not care what's going on around them and just not take a side. And the other is to be a player in the League of Nations. And I gather from your comments that you don't believe that Nigeria is playing its true role that it should play in the global community. And why let me ask you this, if you want to go down this path, why do you think that is? Why do you think Nigeria historically has failed to play the part that it should play?
Historically not. That was not what I meant. Actually, I mean that we have played some roles. I mean, we have got engaged in the Liberian-Sierra Leonean wars. We have with the apartheid regime that ruled for decades in South Africa. Nigeria spent billions on that to get engaged, to get South Africa from out of the hands of the apartheid regime. I mean, Nigeria got engaged a lot. There was a time I can't remember well whether Zambia or Namibia. Nigeria has got so much engaged in what is going on within the African sub-region. And but currently, actually, what I meant is about the current situation, because we are dealing with a lot of internal instability, internal crisis as well. I mean, everybody's aware that we have because of some terrorist groups in Nigeria, and this is a country that's been dealing with a lot of ethnic problems from time immemorial, and we have not yet harnessed the potential Nigeria has to get more engaged in the global community, in the global crisis that we're experiencing. And I'm very optimistic that is still coming. Nigerians generally, we are in different parts of the world with a population of over 237 million people, and experts, technocrats in different parts of the world. And anywhere we go, we integrate easily. We are people that are well civilized, we integrate easily, we have friends from different parts of the world. So we are also engaged, and we want our country also to be more engaged in the global stage. But because of the internal crisis, and any country will experience that. If you are going through your internal issues, you first deal with it first and get yourself stable, because you can reach out, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's
Well, no, I agree. And I didn't mean to say and infer that Nigeria has not done its part globally, or especially in Africa. I mean, they've been very, very prominent in dealing with issues in Africa. But in my humble opinion, we're heading in a direction where, I talk about World War III. I hope it doesn't happen. But I think the world is dividing between East versus West, good versus evil, and all this kind of stuff. And I made a comment on a show that the world, you get evil, and I define, yeah, I shouldn't use these terms, good versus evil, but the bad guys and the good guys are dividing up the world. So when it comes down to it, you have a very strong likelihood that China will take action against against Taiwan. You see the Russian-Ukraine conflict. Should Nigeria, outside of the continent, outside of Africa, should Nigeria as a country take a more active role in helping find a way to solve global conflict that's not on the continent of Africa? Should they take a position on the Russian-Ukraine war? Should they take a position about what's happening between China and Taiwan? Should they, in your opinion?
a very, very good question. From my opinion, Nigeria should take a position, but taking a position as a Pan-Africanist, I think Nigeria should take position towards strengthening the African Union. I would want the African Union to take more role in this area, and the African Union, as it is constituted currently, is also not strengthened enough to take up that leadership role. Nigerian can be more I mean, can push more towards reforming the African Union, so that we can get other African countries also along, also the smaller countries, smaller countries because we need them. Nigeria, Africa, we have 54 countries at the UN General Assembly, the largest voting bloc at the United Nations. But we are not, playing this role. And before you can get all these smaller countries also on board, you need to strengthen the African Union so the African Union can rally around all these countries and, and pull them together so that we speak with one voice. One country on the African continent alone cannot, for example, let me take a country like Togo. How will it possible for a country like Togo to to negotiate with a country like China? What's the population of Togo? And you are dealing with a country that's 1.5 billion people. Before you get on the negotiating table, you have already lost. So we need the African continent as a whole, about 1.5 billion people, to move this agenda forward. That's why we need to, it's important to strengthen yourself internally before you can move out, and extend your powers externally. I'm of the
No,
view of that.
well, no, I agree with that view. But let me ask you this, but it's interesting. But I love one thing I love about this show is how it kind of just goes from point to point. But I was actually in Ethiopia. I was in Addis for the last Africa Union meeting, which I don't know a few months ago. I can't remember when it was. And one of the big things that came out of that was the push for reparations, global reparations for slavery and and let me ask you this, and maybe this is wrong. I'm a white man, of course, asking a black man this question. I'm sure people will say it's race or whatever. I'm sure I'm going to be labeled. Listen, this show is going to go down as like one of my shows that I get in so much trouble for so many different calls, so many different questions. But here, to me, and to go back to our core question of what's happening globally, and I agree with you. The African Union, just like I think the United Nations, need to strengthen, need to reform, need to change. Do you really believe, in your personal opinion, that focusing on reparations now, given everything going around the world, is the right focus of the African Union?
To be honest with you, I don't know why they put that point on the table now, because I don't think this is what we need currently. That might probably come later for some that might want to benefit from it, but pay reparation for slavery, colonization, or neo-colonial enterprises, where will they stop? African continent is no doubt has suffered enough, and it's time we stand up. That's why some of us are pleading that we do not want this development aid. It has not done us any good. We have been getting it for the last since independence. Where has it brought us to now? And there are many research on this in this area of development aid that is not brought anything tangible to the African continent or to the developing world. Maybe some people are benefit from those developing aid, but to the people that really need this developing aid, the masses are not getting anything from it. So I don't need why we should be getting development aid. We have enough resources on the African continent, and we have in some countries human resources. We should harness that. And when we're talking about reparation, because the African Americans will be talking about it as well. I don't know whether they are dealing with this topic in the Caribbean. I don't know in other countries, Brazil. I don't know how far they are dealing with these topics. It's not a priority for somebody like me because I believe we should move beyond that need. Not yet. We at the current at the moment at the current we should move beyond that. We should empower ourselves, and we have enough to empower ourselves on the African continent. We should make sure that our resources are not just taken for granted again. They are not just exported, move out of the continent without being processed. We need to develop ourselves, and we need to look inward. Africa first. We have to think about ourselves. So all this reparation, I don't know. When people give you money, they don't respect you.
Listen, if I may say, I agree 100%. I mean, and
They
once again,
don't respect you.
this
So
is
you
not because I'm some white guy that's saying this, but I agree. If I look around the world, countries that are asking for things like reparations, especially in the global community right now, they don't get the respect. It's like, okay, why should we listen to them? And if Nigeria, for example, wants to take a leading role in the Middle East against China, against Russia, they can't do it and be taken seriously at the same time they're asking for reparations. It just doesn't add up. And I think that you're spot on. And I've talked to many people on this show about how Africa has the ability to lead It's a country, it's a continent that has the greatest opportunities with the natural resources and people and human talent and so much that they can lead. And now's the time, in my opinion, and I said this when I was at the African Union, is that I agree with you 100%. Don't talk about reparations. Talk about how Africa can lead, what you have to offer the world, not what you want the world to give you, and that's going to make you a player. And that's what we need. That's what need to change. So just to go back to the Middle East real quick, because this is one of the
Mm.
reasons I really appreciate, and I want to explore real quick because we only have like 4 minutes left here. When you're the first person or guest on the show to talk about, if you think about all the pain and suffering and everything that's happened on the African continent, how Africans can relate more with what the Israelis are going through. I mean, it's an interesting viewpoint because listen, for the world, if the people who are watching don't know this, Israel is a country in which everybody around them wants to destroy them. Everyone around them wants to wipe them off the face of the planet. Iran has made it very clear, we will destroy you. You shouldn't exist. All this kind of stuff. So you're constantly, you got people, what they call lions at the gate and barbarians at the gate, whatever you want to call it. So it is interesting that you say that. But where do you think Africa, like if you're in Abuja, if you're just a Nigerian walking on the street in Abuja, and you're watching this show, if you had to explain to them why, honestly, why that person must care about what's going on, help them understand why they must care.
Thank you. It's a very, very controversial topic, what is going on in the Middle East, especially when you look at the stance of Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israeli defense forces, what the attacks they are carrying out in Gaza and the situation of the Palestinian generally. For a person who is living on the street of Abuja, if you are not in the field of international relations, international politics, and you just see these pictures every day, bombardment, how women are killed, how children are killed, you will have a different view entirely about what is going on in the region. It's a very, very dangerous situation. Very
Yeah.
dangerous if you don't have the historical background of the entire situation. So for somebody on the street of Abuja seeing these pictures, you keep asking, but why is Israel attacking these people day and night? If you do not know the historical background. Like I told you, as an African now, I relate a lot with what you said with the situation of Israel. But at the same time, I'm a human being, and I'm looking at it from somebody as somebody who is coming from the field of international relations, political science, who have been at the United Nations. I do not, yeah.
One quick, so I just got a note that there's apparently some breaking news that they want to get to. So unfortunately, I must interrupt your answer there. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. So I'm going to have you back on the show because I definitely want to continue talking about this. So I'm sorry, but global events, as you know, are changing constantly. But thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. We will have you back on the show. Sorry to cut you short. Anyway, this is Dane Waters with Around the World with Dane Waters. We have to go because it is a live show and we have to get back to the news at the studio. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.